Okay, this is test number 10 study guide from lessons 1.1 through 4.2. Your first question says, write it in fraction in simplest form. So you have 3 to 6. You would write 3 to 6 as 3 over 6. And the number 3 goes into both of them. The number 3 does, it goes into 3 one time, and it goes into 6 two times. Or 1 times 3 is 3, and 2 times 3 is 6. Number 2 says 40 to 35. 40 to 35 means 40 over 35. The number 5 goes into both of them. That's going to be the number you're going to use. 5 times 8 gives you 40, and 5 times 7 gives you 35. So 8 over 7. Number 3, 6 out of 9. 6 over 9. The number 3 goes into both of them. 3 times 2 is 6, and 3 times 3 is 9. 2 over 3. Number 4, convert 5 quarts per minute to gallons per hour. So what we have to start is 5 quarts in 1 minute. We want to convert it to gallons per hour. So we'll do gallons at first, since that one's listed first. Quarts are going to become gallons, so we need to multiply by quarts on the bottom and gallons on the top. It has to be the opposite. Since quarts is at the top of the first one, you want it at the bottom of the second fraction. Now, in 1 gallon, there are 4 quarts. Okay. Then you want to convert from minutes to hours. Okay. You have minutes at the bottom of the first fraction, so you want minutes at the top of the third fraction, and hours at the bottom. And there are 60 minutes in 1 hour. So what you have now, you can cross out your units. You can cross out quarts, and you can cross out minutes, and you're left with gallons on the top over hours on the bottom. Then when you multiply straight across, 5 times 1 times 60, you get 300. And when you multiply 1 times 4 times 1, you get 4. So that's 300 gallons per hour. Then you can divide 300 by 4, and you get 75 gallons per 1 hour. So 75 gallons per hour. Okay, number 5, we're solving the proportions. You have 2 over 15 equals x over 150. With these, you want to cross multiply. You can undo divide by 150, but it's a lot simpler to cross multiply. That means multiply the numerator by the denominator in this case, or 2 times 150, which is 300, equals 15 times x is 15x. Then that says 15 times x, so divide by 15. You got to do the same thing on both sides. And x's value equals 20. Number 6 says 16% of 450, then round to the nearest tenth if necessary. Anytime you're dealing with percentages, it means to multiply, but you can't multiply by 16%. You have to take the fact that that decimal is there, and you have to move it over 2 places. So you're going to be multiplying by 0.16 times 450. 0.16 times 450. And when you multiply those two by each other, you get 72. 72 is 16% of 450. Number 7 says y equals negative 6x plus 7 when x's value is negative 4. So plug in negative 4 right there. Y equals negative 6 times negative 4 plus 7. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, tells you to multiply first. So y equals negative 6 times negative 4 is positive 24, plus 7 is y equals 31. Number 8 says graph y equals 2x minus 6. As of right now, we've only learned one way to graph. The first thing you need to do is you need to make sure your equation is in function form. That means make sure y is first. Then what you need to do is you need to make yourself an input-output chart or an input-output machine where your ins are on the left and your outs are on the right. Okay, that is your x values going in and your y values coming out. Your equation goes in the middle, and you can just put the part of the equation that is the expression after y equals. So y equals 2x minus 3. Now you can come up with any numbers you want to plug in place of n, like I told you guys, but the easiest ones to multiply by are -1, 0, and 1. Okay, so we'll use those for our example. 2 times x, or we use the value -1 in place of x, so 2 times -1 minus 3 is your first expression. 2 times -1 is -2, minus 3 is -5. So your first ordered pair is -1, -5. The second one, when you plug in 2 times in place of x, 0, minus 3, anything times 0 is 0, minus 3 is -3. So you have your second ordered pair, 0, -3. And then your last ordered pair, you plug in 1. So 2 times instead of x, it's 1, minus 3. 2 times 2 is 2, minus 3 is -1. So you have your third ordered pair, 1, -1. Now that you have 3 ordered pairs, you graph them on a Cartesian plane. Notice as you look at the numbers in your ordered pairs, 5 is the highest absolute value, or 5 is the one that's farthest away from 0. So make sure your graph will get you at least to 5 on all sides. You don't have to be an artist to do this, but try to be as neat as possible with your spacing. That way you can at least show straight lines where they're supposed to be. We had to get to 5, so that's as far as I'll go. 5 marks there. If you want to use graph paper, by all means. Some people prefer to do that. I'll never tell you you can't use graph paper. 5 there. 5 there. And 5 there. And for the sake of the video, I actually went through and I made all of this ahead of time, where we could save a little time from now on after this first example. But your first ordered pair, -1, -5, it's always x, comma, y, which tells you either you go right or left and you go up or down. Now, to tell you which one's which, if you're going to go, if it's a negative number, you're going to go left. If it's a, I just wrote positive. If it's a negative number, you're going to go left. If it's a positive number, you go right. If it is a positive number, you go up. If it's a negative number, you go down. So if we look at our 3 ordered pairs we have, -1 tells us to go to the left 1 time. -5 tells us to go down 5 times. So you always start at the origin when you're plotting points, and you go to the left 1 time, and you go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that would be your first point. I'm going to make it erase all this to where it doesn't make all that much mess for us. But your first one is -1, -5. And that's your first point. And label your point, -1, -5. Your second one is 0, -3. That means don't go left or right at all, but go down 3 times. So again, starting at the origin, you go down, not left or right at all, but down once, 2, 3 times. There's your second point. And again, I'll make it erase all of that where it doesn't make a mess. And that point is 0, -3. And then your third one tells you to go, it's +1 this time. It tells you to go to the right 1 time and to go down 1 time. So again, starting at the origin, go to the right 1 time and down 1 time for your third point. Again, I'll make it, get rid of that mess. And that is 1, -1 for that point. Now that you have 3 points, connect all 3 of them via a straight line. And in this case, any form, the reason it's not straight is just because of my tick marks, or I might be a little off with my graphing. Had we used graph paper, that would show a perfectly straight line. Always make sure when you're graphing and you're extending your line, make sure you extend it through both axes, meaning through the y-axis here at this point and through the x-axis here at this point. But your graph should look like that. Number 5 says y equals 4/5x minus 5. Inside, you make sure y is equal to all by itself. It's isolated. your ins or your x's, your outs or your y's. Use the same values, -1, 0, and 1. And then put your expression, y equals your expression, 4 over 5, x minus 5. And we're going to plug in our values that we chose for x, -1, 0, and 1. So 4 over 5 times -1 minus 5 means 4 over 5 times -1 just makes it -4 over 5. Minus 1 is -5 and 4/5. And we'll just leave it in that form for right now because it'll be easier to graph. I'll show you that in a second. 4 over 5 times this times 0 minus 5. Anything times 0 is 0. Minus 5 means -5. And 4 over 5 times 1 minus 5. 4 over 5 times 1 makes it 4 over 5 minus 5 will be -4 and 1/5. Okay, so those are our three ordered pairs. The first one is -1, -5, and 4/5. And we'll graph those individually. This one tells you to go to the left one time and to go down 5 and 4/5. So go to the left one time from the origin and down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then it says 4/5. So almost to the sixth one, and that's where your point's going to go. I'll erase that mess. So -1, -5, and 4/5. That's your first one. Your second point, or your second ordered pair, comes from the x and the y value. I'll just show that step if anybody's having that problem. Is 0, -5. So that tells you not to go left or right at all, but go down 5 times. So starting at the origin, don't go left or right, but go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for your second point. And again, I'll erase that mess. So your second point is 0, -5. And your third point, we're going to take our x value 1 and our y value -4 and 1/5. So 1, and I'll write it out here to the side where we got some room, and -4 and 1/5. That tells us to go to the right one time and down -4 and 1/5. So from the origin again to the right one time, down 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1/5 would just be right past 4. So you have to do a little bit of estimating when you're plotting your points, especially on a graph that you drew. And that's 1, -4 and 1/5. Once you have 3 points, you draw your line right through and try to extend it past through both of your axes, and that's what your graph should look like. Number 10 is y equals 2. Remember, this is your x-axis and this is your y. Y's value is 2. That means if you graphed it here, it would be 2. If you graphed it here, it would be 2. If you graphed it here, it would be 2. If you graphed it over here, it would be 2. Anywhere you graph it, it's going to be 2. So what you create, and I'm going to have trouble drawing a straight line, but what you create is a horizontal line that y equals 2. And the same thing holds true with number 11, where it says x equals 2. This is your y-axis and this is your x. So where x values 2, if you graphed it here, it would be 2. If you graphed it here, it would be 2 there. Anywhere you graph it, it's going to be 2 the value, no matter what value of y you plug in. So a straight line, I'm having trouble doing a straight line, but it's supposed to be a straight line, x equals 2, a vertical line. And we'll continue in part 2 from number